Renaissance Man is the second to last episode of Voyager, meaning it falls between Homestead and Endgame. Meaning, of course,
No
Neelix! If that's not a reason to sing, I don't know what is. But Janeway comes out to let the doctor know that maybe blaring music while she's trying to sleep is not healthy for her, or anyone within the range of a phaser. They're on their way back from a medical symposium because they're stranded on the other side of the galaxy. Naturally, they're attending a conference. Next, you'll be telling me they shouldn't be drag racing in the Delta Flyer. The doctor is in one of his more superior moods, so when they run into some turbulence, he insists on continuing to fly because of his holographic advantages. Really sounds less smug when Spock says stuff like this. After the titles, Torres and Vorik have crawled up the warp core's asshole trying to figure out the latest problem with the ship, but Tom calls her away on the pretense of shuttle repair. Actually, he just wants to have lunch. Chakotay approved of this, but Torres feels too guilty about not having her work done to stay. Ah, well. Still, I suppose the flickering lights of the bridge do make a good case that maybe we should get this job done. It's so bad, in fact, that Extra Man takes this last opportunity to appear and speak a line, telling Harry there's a pulse coming in from the Delta Flyer. But this is just Janeway calling up to say hi. She's on her way back, but has a little comm trouble, so she's using the deflector to send this message. Oh, and also, she needs to see Chakotay right away.
They're called to the recall. Their technology is decades ahead of ours. Transphasic warp drive, multispectral cloaking systems. They could destroy this ship before our sensors knew they were there.
And I want to know why we don't have shit like that. Anyway, these baddies are like those TNG Greenpeace guys on steroids. Their super warp drive is powered by the smiles of children, and its only byproduct is the smell of freshly baked cookies. Whereas Voyager runs on coal and farts out radioactive poison clouds by comparison. So they are super pissed that Voyager's been flying through their territory for the last 3 weeks. They are super powerful and control all of space to the Beta Quadrant, and so, as punishment for befouling their space with their Mordor mobile, Voyager is to be dismantled. Well, after 3 hours of negotiations, Janeway talked them down to a rendezvous with their armada to surrender the warp core, and a Class M planet to settle on. Chakotay says that sounds like a bad deal, but Janeway's so damn tired of all this, she really just wants to do it anyway, rather than throwing away more lives in their futile attempt to get back. What are the odds it's going to make a difference? Do you think somebody is going to show up next week with time travel technology from the future? Yeah, let's not be idiots. Janeway then swings by to ask Torres if, hypothetically, the warp core could be ejected and safely towed away using the Delta Flyer. You know, just trying to settle a bet with Chakotay. Oh, we can? Good. Well, you know what a welcher he is, so we better actually set things up so we could do exactly that, because otherwise I'm never going to get that bottle of Coke out of him. Chakotay soon starts questioning Janeway.
Are we taking it somewhere else?
I heard you the first time.
Looks like she's having another argument with Shoulder Spider.
Not now.
And we all know that Spider has a one-tracked mind. Well, with Janeway acting insane enough that even this jaded crew can notice, Chakotay goes to see the doctor, who says that after the aliens interrogated her, he gave Janeway a checkup and confirmed that she's all right.
I'd like you to give her a more thorough examination.
Some days I can't tell if I'm watching Voyager or the porn parody version of Voyager. After finishing here, Chakotay swings by Astrometrics to ask Seven what's going on. Things are humdrum, including a trading ship which should cause an immediate course of action. Hail them to see if they have any insights into what Janeway was talking about. If these bad guys are so powerful, the locals have to know something about them, right? Instead, Chakotay wants to know if there's a cloaked fleet of interstellar eco-battleships out there. Seven says no, she doesn't see any, which on the one hand, well, they're invisible, so obviously, but on the other hand, it's beware of my deadly invisible army sounds like kind of the thing somebody would make up. Before they can suss that out, the Archon of the bad guys calls up, demanding to know about the warp core. If he doesn't get it in 10 hours, Voyager's going to get blown to bits. All this is really starting to annoy Chakotay. It's getting so a guy can't have 5 minutes to consult with his wolf around here. Chakotay hears Janeway's clean bill of health and accepts it like someone who just heard that cancer was cured by soy sauce. So he goes to check on her in her quarters. She meets him in the hallway, though, and is none too happy with him. Chakotay says the feeling is mutual. She's acting weird. Weirder. He compares the situation to a time when Janeway was a lieutenant and questioned her captain's orders. But it's a trick. She pretends to remember this story, but he made the whole thing up. Ha ha! Should have seen this coming. If anyone could pull a story, myth, or legend out of its ass, it's this guy. So, she uses the off-button hypospray on him and then stuffs Chakotay into the morgue. Well, we all knew it was going to end this way.
I can't do my job with the two of you constantly talking in my head.
Whoa, I was just kidding about the porn parody thing. Stop. Actually, we see Janeway is the Doctor in disguise, with the mobile emitter hidden on the boot. The real Janeway is a prisoner of the hierarchy, those bad guys from back in Tinker, Tenor, Dr. Spy, who are demanding the warp core in exchange for Janeway's life. She tells him not to cooperate, but the Doctor ignores her, even when the hierarchy now raises their demand, wanting some of the bioneural circuitry of Voyager 2. This thing keeps up, the Doctor's going to be stealing their hubcaps. Oh, but first he's got to head down to the Delta Flyer disguised as Chakotay in order to deal with Tuvok, to try and allay his suspicions now. And speaking of suspicions, Janeway is now pouring poison in the ears of the hierarchy, that the Doctor is actually leading them on, making them think he's helping when in reality he's preparing to outmaneuver them. It's enough to get the junior partner nervous, but it turns out these guys aren't actually with the hierarchy. They're escaped hoodlums who stole this ship and are looking to make a quick buck off of Voyager, much like everyone else involved with Voyager. The Doctor now calls Torres away so that he can disguise himself as her in order to steal some spare gel packs. Only...
You left me no choice.
Lieutenant.
Oh, are we calling each other by a rank now?
Uh-oh. Nope, we've moved away from the porn parody and we're now in the realm of fanfic. Better grab onto something.
Well, I'm sure the baby is famished.
A pregnant woman shouldn't eat this kind of food. Do you want to give me an arterial occlusion?
One drumstick isn't going to kill you.
I'm more interested in the breast and thighs anyway. A romantic dinner is suggested instead, so after a kiss that neither party will want to remember or ever be able to forget, a call comes in for Chakotay to come to Astrometrics. Well, that means it's time for a costume change, so the Doctor, who is now Chakotay, can hear the report about the Doctor when he was the Archon as ordered by Chakotay before he was the Doctor because of his suspicions of Janeway, who was the Doctor. So the hope was the Doctor posing as the Archon would back up the story presented by the Doctor as Janeway to convince the real Chakotay the fake Janeway was the real Janeway, telling the truth about the real Archon, which failed since Chakotay suspected the fake Janeway was a fake anyway, heedless of the fact the fake Archon wasn't actually a fake Archon because a fake Archon implies there was a real Archon, and there was no real Archon, only the fake Archon that failed to convince the real Chakotay the fake Janeway was real, necessitating replacing the real Chakotay with the fake Chakotay, while the real Chakotay was out of the picture, only now the fake Chakotay has to act like the real Chakotay, while the fact the fake Archon was faked is revealed. And I don't have to point out the irony of that situation at all. Well, I'm afraid it's been sorted out by Harry. The real Harry. Well, as real as Harry manages to be anyway. They tracked the signal to the holodeck, but the logs were erased. But Harry has managed to reconstruct the alien image, and then the image it's superimposed over. You're a doctor. You've got to know you shouldn't keep doing that to people. Well, into the morgue with Harry, too. It's kind of like the Darkling, only without bad teeth. So the Doctor stacks up his collection of comm badges, and once you've done that, there's only one thing to do. That's getting very Hannibal Lecter-y, isn't it? He was a doctor too, after all. Well, he's interrupted by Tuvok. One thing that had my brain itching was why the Doctor would need to use a pulse to communicate with Voyager. It's not like he needed to fake looking like Janeway when he was walking around looking like her minutes later. Well, Tuvok was bothered too, so he's discovered that it was actually cover for accessing the holodeck files and downloading a copy of the captain's physical parameters. The Doctor tries the hypospray trick, but he's not as gullible as Chakotay or Harry, and soon Tuvok has him at gunpoint. Being phaser-proof, that doesn't mean much, so Tuvok starts shooting the projectors. The Doctor decides to go for the mobile emitter, passing through the wall, but picking up the mobile emitter while standing inside of his desk. He's got like full Shadowcat control now. So, the Doctor hides in the holodeck. If I had any money, I'd be sipping jippers on a beach somewhere. Doc's not even in this room. He's in a Jeffries tube, but Tom is joining in the hunt. Lord knows he has reason enough to demand a few answers here. Chakotay soon arrives telling Torres that the warp core needs to be ejected because of the Doctor's tampering. And Paris figures out, no, that's really the Doctor. But not soon enough to stop him. He activates his emergency command hologram system, so he gets put in charge, ejects the core, and then tries using the hologram of Torres to get past Tuvok. It doesn't work. Well, the only choice then is to go full frontal Trinity on him. Putting the Matrix in Holomatrix. During this, Janeway is helping the junior member of the bad guys with his repairs. Seems he just likes fixing up old ship components and is hoping to set up an outpost to do it for a living, rather than, kidnapping and stealing stuff.
No one's ever going to buy this junk. It's almost as useless as you.
Makes me wonder why I even bother being your morale officer. Well, the Doctor has arrived, but he won't hand over the warp core until he has Janeway. I seem to have spotted a flaw in this plan. So the Doctor gives up the warp core, but instead of Janeway getting beamed over to him, he's beamed into the cell with her. Seems the Doctor did so well that the Big Cheese intends to keep him. And in the meantime, she's reading him the riot act about stranding Voyager now.
Voyager can survive without a warp core, but not without a captain.
Now it doesn't have either.
Oh, I don't know if he has balls or not, but either way, she just firmly planted her boot in them. Back on Voyager, main power is obviously down, but they do manage to find Chakotay and Harry, and eventually they get the lights back on. Unfortunately, that means music is blaring all over the ship. It's Blue Danube, and it's playing badly. However, when they check it out, there's a warp signature inside of it, pointing the way to the ship. So, Tuvok and Tom are going to take a shuttle to check it out. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Janeway are trying to escape.
Maybe, if we get back to the ship, we could try socializing a little more.
This really isn't the place to be talking about this. Besides, I don't do a lot of socializing.
Makes it easier to maintain scientific detachment with my specimens. Speaking of mad science, the bad guys try outfitting the Doctor to infiltrate the hierarchy and steal a bunch of data, but it just destabilizes him. While they're distracted by the problem, Tuvok disables their tractor beam, the one that's holding the Delta Flyer, so Tom beams over to it, and they gang up on the bigger ship. The Big Cheese is going to jettison the core and hit it with a torpedo, knowing that it will kill Tom and Tuvok. But when push comes to shove, the junior partner sides with the Doctor and Janeway. But we're not out of the woods yet. All that shit that they pumped into his program is causing massive problems. So he makes a deathbed confession of all the most embarrassing crap that he has ever done, plus confessing his love for Seven just to put the cherry on top there. So it's kind of awkward that soon he's perfectly fine. Still, awkward is kind of how we should end the second to last episode of Voyager. Post-episode follow-up, no Neelix, which gives this a +1 bonus to its final score, meaning that the final score for Renaissance Man is 7 out of 10. You would have no idea that this is the second to last episode, and in a way I suppose that's probably apropos, that it feels like a high-concept action piece. Most of the actors get to play a different version of themselves this time, so that offers some change of pace for this second to last episode. so that even though it's the Doctor's episode, it's really got a chance for a lot of people to be able to participate in it. Picardo, of course, when he's on there, carries the episode quite well, with the sole exception being the scene where he's running up the hallway, and I can't help but wonder if he was doing that deliberately. What also helps the episode to work is that it's got good energy for at least the first several acts. It's the last act where, even though it's the action climax, it starts to feel like it's run out of gas. All in all, in a vacuum, Renaissance Man is a perfectly fine outing. The problem, though, is that it's not in a vacuum. This is the second to last episode of the entire series, and you would have absolutely no idea looking at it that that was the case. That's not a crime of the episode. I'm not holding that against it here or anything, but I'm just making note of the fact that, especially given that the last episode is called Endgame, that there's no sense that we're getting close to the end here. Yes, I know you could say that TNG didn't have any sense that it was building towards its end, but TNG, A, wasn't setting up towards an end point, and B, wasn't in the 21st century. Voyager's ending was. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but at least Homestead... But at least Homestead had a sense of completion to it, being the final episode of Neelix, who has been with them since the beginning. If that had been the penultimate episode, that would have probably meant a lot more. I know, it sounds crazy, me talking as if more Neelix would have been a good thing, but it doesn't have to be that. It just kind of makes the point that the episode before this was doing a better job of building towards the end than this one was. Again, I'm not holding it against this episode. I'm holding it against the placement of this episode and not having something in this to build towards where we're supposed to be going. Look, I realize Hess is kind of rambling at this point, and I'll be honest with you, I left the script about 2 minutes ago. The fact of the matter is, I have a very complicated relationship with this show. This show and I have been doing this internet thing for longer than some of you watching this show have been alive. And being so close to the end with it as we are, there are not many episodes left for me to do, and being here at the second to last episode of the show makes me aware that there's so much that's kind of left unsaid here. I don't want to turn this into a long, rambling rant, but then again, I suppose it's too late for that. I guess what I'm saying is that it's emblematic of the show, but not in the way I would have wanted it to be. My biggest regret with Voyager remains that I know it could have been so much more.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
I'm afraid.